going to call the meeting to order at 7:03. 5:03, good catch. Don't get ahead of ourselves there. At 5:03, and this is a special meeting of the Council of the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. It's a special meeting called for a single purpose only, and the purpose of the meeting is to waive certain conditions from an offer to purchase that has been recommended to the council from the Port Management Committee. Now, in attendance at the meeting are the volunteer members of the Port Management Committee. Mr. McCauley is with us, and Mr. Hendricks, I think, will be joining us. And because this recommendation that we're going to be dealing with is coming from the Port Management Committee, I'm going to, and in the initial stages of this council meeting, be a little bit flexible with the rules of procedure, and I will recognize either of these two volunteer members of the Port Management Committee should they choose to participate in the action and information item discussion. Once we get beyond that agenda item, then of course the meeting will revert to elected officials. So I'm now at item number 2 on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. And the chair is looking for a motion to approve the agenda as circulated.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have that. Thank you very much. And moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter, that Municipal Council approves the agenda as presented.
Thank you very much, members. You've heard the motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And I see a note from Mr. Hendricks. So Mr. Hendricks, it is a township council meeting, if you can hear me.
It's not on.
No, he's not coming. I'm just giving you a quick second and I'll tell him that it's a council meeting. He's welcome to attend. Okay, so now I'm moving on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest here this evening? No. Chair notes no disclosures. And so now I'm at the main item of our agenda, which is the action and information items. And so if volunteer members of the Port Management Committee want to raise points, I'll recognize them during this discussion. So the long and the short of it is that the purpose of the meeting and the purpose of this agenda item is to recommend providing authority for the mayor and the Port General Manager to sign the OREA waiver form 123, which will finalize the agreement of purchase and sale for the property located at 2822 County Road 2, Johnstown, Ontario. And I might say, just by way of a little background, that a few weeks ago, in closed camera meetings, the council agreed to the making an offer for the purchase of the property located at 2822 County Road 2 in Johnstown. That offer was accepted, and that commenced a 60-day due diligence period, which will end on January the 17th. And so now, in order to execute the offer of purchase and sale, which has been accepted, it is necessary for the purchaser, which is the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal, to waive the conditions of the contract. And that's the purpose of this meeting. And the chair, as chair, I have in front of me, coming forward from the Port Management Committee, a recommendation that Municipal Council authorizes the mayor and the Port General Manager, my apologies, to sign the document titled Ontario Real Estate Association Waiver Form 123 as attached, provided that the acreage listed in the agreement of purchase of sale is confirmed by a third party. Now, there's a lot of background to the due diligence that's gone on over this 60-day period. And members of council and members of the Port Management Committee have been provided with a lot of the documented information that was required to show that we had done our due diligence in executing this sale. So with those few words of introduction, and Mr. Daly, you may want to add a little bit. I am opening the floor for discussion, and as I indicated at the beginning of the meeting, I will entertain questions or comments from the two volunteer members of the Port Management Committee for this discussion item. So, Mr. Daly, over to you. Can't hear you, Mr. Daly. I think you're on mute.
I always get caught on that. I think you covered everything off, Mr. Mayor. I've been sending emails out, a couple of them as I received the information of the due diligence. I sent an email out today. One of the final, I guess, hurdles that I was a little concerned with was the discrepancy in acreage. That looks like it's been resolved, and that we can confirm that it is 37 acres approximately and not 27 acres. That was a big concern for me because, as you know, this all started with the port wanting more lands. So that 10 acres would have been a bit of a stumbling block, in my opinion. And then I gave a sort of very broad general amount of money that we probably need to put into just the building, let alone the laydown area that would have to be developed. Because I want everyone to understand that, you know, there's money that needs to be invested here. I think it's money that I think it's worth investing. I think we had a fantastic year at the port. We had a record year, 2021. Of course, we haven't had our auditors in yet, but I can tell you that we've basically EBITDA report, you know, after taxes, depreciation, and the rest of it, that we're over $4 million on a budget of $3 million. So that's a good thing for us. Something I think that we should keep in mind when making our decision tonight, that if we would have had a poor year and made $2 million instead of 3, I think we might be looking at this a little differently, but, and maybe not. I'm willing to, or I'm here to answer any questions that you might have regarding the due diligence of the work that we've done to get us to this point. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for those remarks. And I see Councillor Cameron has his hand up, and so I'll entertain a bit of discussion. And just so everyone knows, later in the meeting and before we deal with the actual recommendation, I'm going to review, Mr. Daly, I'm going to review the types and numbers of documents that we have received from you as a result of the due diligence process, because I want that review of that process to be part of the public record. So when I start that review, if you'll just kind of tick things off as I go along, and if I miss something, please point it out to me so that I can add it for the sake of the public record. So, Councillor Cameron.
Yes, the question to General Manager Daly. Mr. Daly, I read your email and your information regarding the 27 acres, and I believe it was MPAC that had said it was 27 acres. So what I'm assuming is that BBL was paying their fair taxes and property taxes, et cetera, on 27 acres. Now, if it turns out to be 36 or 37 acres, as we are led to believe, are we in any way committed to those previous tax for the land, because we have more or less, we're gonna be telling Impact that it's 20 or 37 acres. Are they going to come back on us looking for back payment for the, what was it paid?
Okay, so let me jump in here quickly, just as a point of clarification. So the impact tax notices that would have gone to the previous owner, the tax notices actually originate here at the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. And the tax notices contain a municipal portion, a county portion, and an education portion. So as far as it's not an impact issue, the point is that the previous owner, as we know from our lawyer and our due diligence, all the taxes have been paid in full as per the notice, the tax notice that the previous owner received from the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. So if there were to be any flashback or chargeback, it would have to originate with the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal, and that certainly will not happen. Now, on a go-forward basis, the impact tax notices will be at some point corrected, and then the future tax notices that will be sent out will include the correct acreage as has been determined by the surveyor. But the township, and I'll get Mr. Grant to correct me, I'm here. I believe that the port does not pay a municipal tax, nor do they pay a county tax, nor do they pay the health tax, the education tax. I'll just ask the clerk or the CAO to confirm that for me.
Mr. Mayor, I believe you're correct, but I can't say with 100% certainty.
Okay, so to the clerk, if you could help us out here. I see the treasurer is not present tonight, but to the clerk, can you help us out with that particular item?
Yes, through the chair, it's my general understanding. Again, I'm not the treasurer, nor do I deal with the finance department as my general basis. However, because the port is owned by the township, I do not believe that they are under the same tax bracket, so they would not be charged the tax levies of the counties. Am I correct, Robert?
Yes, that's correct, Rebecca. Yeah, we would, if we end up, so I don't think it really matters as far as the land goes, but as far as the office goes, if we're successful and we're still in hot conversations over that, on leasing the bottom section of the office area out, as well as the warehouse, and probably a little bit of land for parking, etc. That would all be on the lease and potentially taxable, depending on the agreement made with the new company that we signed the lease with.
Right. Are there any further issues or discussions that members would like to have raised here before I just do a recitation of the due diligence items that we've gone through? I'll do that recitation now, and that may generate additional discussion. So the purpose of the meeting, if this recommendation in front of the chair is successful, then the purpose of the meeting will be to pass a bylaw, which will enable the mayor and the CAO to execute an agreement of purchase and sale between the corporation of the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal and PCG Sales Limited for the industrial property located at, I just said it a few minutes ago, 2822 County Road 2, Johnstown, Ontario. That property is better known as BBL Energy Inc. So to just go through some of the items that we have dealt with as a matter of due diligence. And again, Mr. Daly, if you could help me along here. These are the conditions that we will be waiving. We will be accepting the following. The deliveries all set out as in paragraph 4, insofar as we accept the conditions of the soil, the water, the septic, the servicing, the environmental conditions of the property, including without limitation, a review by the buyer of any and all relevant studies and reports provided by the seller regarding the physical characteristics of the property. Now, I might say that we have done a septic system analysis. We have a report. We have done a water system analysis. We have a report. We have done a report from, we had some concerns with regard to the roof, and we've had the roof inspected by both a roofing company and by a structural engineer, and we have reports on that. And we know going into this that there are substantial repairs required to the roof, decking, but we also know from the engineer's report that the roof superstructure is in relatively good shape with some minor $10,000 worth of repairs required to the superstructure. We are accepting all planning and zoning matters in relation to the property. We're accepting the physical condition of the building located on the subject property, including, as I mentioned before, the roof and the matters associated with the roof. We're accepting approval of the list of chattels included in the subject transaction, and in my understanding there are a few. All title and off-title matters in relation to the property. All approvals from municipal council to complete the transaction, and that's what we're doing here this evening. And upon the buyers arranging at the buyer's own expense a new charge mortgage satisfactory to the buyer and in the buyer's sole and absolute discretion. And I might say that that financing has been agreed to, and the actual documentation for that mortgage will come forward at the council meeting at the end of the month. So those are a list of some of the issues that we've dealt with as part of our due diligence. Mr. Daly, can you add to that list?
I think you pretty much knocked them all off, Mr. Mayor. There's an overall building assessment that we did hire a company to do. However, as I explained before, we were not able to get the report in time. Excuse me. I had a discussion with the gentleman this morning by phone, and there's nothing in there. The major thing is the roof, and we knew that, and we did an engineering assessment, as you mentioned, and we did we had a roofing company come in to give us a budgeted price as well.
Thank you very much. And I see that Councillor Dillabaugh has a question. Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, dearly Chair. To Robert, did we do an environmental assessment, or did we have an engineer who's going to do an environmental assessment on the property?
No, there was an environmental assessment phase 1 and 2 that was completed in late 2018. You all received those assessments at the beginning of this, when we started this process. There was nothing on there that really worried me. There was one little section, and I don't think we need to worry about that. This is not a typical mortgage where the land is tied to the mortgage through the bank. And so the bank is not, they're lending the money to the township, but it's not connected to the land. And so there is no need for a survey. There's no need for the assessments, no need for building conditions. All of that is usually done for the banks, as I'm sure Frank can attest to. But in this case, we didn't have to do that. We did that for our own due diligence. So No, there is not a recent one, but we don't have to do a recent one as far as financing goes, just to be clear.
Anything to add to that, Mr. McCauley?
Not to that specifically, and I think Robert's correct. The nature of the financing is such that the bank won't require an updated phase 1, phase 2. So assuming that the existing phase 1, phase 2 from 2018 is acceptable, and I think from our knowledge of the use of the property in the subsequent period, it's unlikely that anything else has occurred on the property. We should be fine, I would assume.
So just for clarification, in the strict sense of the word, the financing that we've arranged is basically a loan. It is not, in the strict sense, a mortgage where the property is pledged as security to the loan. The loan is taken out in the name of the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal, but all payments to the loan are made through the Port of Johnstown accounts. And again, for the sake of the public record, I might add that it is the intention and the direction of the Port Management Committee that this building, which is surplus to the needs of the port, will be leased out to a tenant. And also, for the public record, I would indicate that the members of the Port Management Committee are aware of at least one of the potential tenants that the Port General Manager is dealing with that has an interest in becoming a tenant in the building. And again, for the public record, and it's new information to both the council members and the Port General Managers and the Port Volunteer Committee members, although not to the General Manager, there has been a second inquiry from a different potential tenant that is interested in a warehouse space, perhaps a little bit larger than this, but that inquiry came through the United Counties Economic Development Department late Friday or Thursday afternoon, I think it was. So we do have reason to believe as a Port Management Committee that the building itself can be a potential source of revenue. And although that is not the main purpose of the purchase, it is a sub arrangement, if I can put it that way. And the main purpose of the purchase is the acreage that the port requires for future expansion purposes, because there's no other land available in the vicinity of the port. So chair is open again for additional comments. I think we've covered pretty much everything for the public record. So if I'm seeing no other discussions or items for discussion arising at the council table, then I'm going to proceed with the agenda to deal with the recommendation that is in front of us. And that recommendation is that municipal council authorizes the mayor and the Port General Manager to sign the document titled Ontario Real Estate Association Waiver Form 123 as attached, provided that the acreage listed in the agreement of purchase and sale is confirmed by a third party. The chair is looking for a mover and a seconder to that recommendation, and of course it will have to be a mover and a seconder from members of council.
Do we have any of those written?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Dildaw, that municipal council authorizes the mayor and Port General Manager to sign the document titled Ontario Real Estate Association Waiver Form 123 as attached, provided that the acreage listed in the agreement of purchase and sale confirmed by a third party.
Thank you very much. The motion is on the floor. It's been read several times. I'm about to call the question unless there's further discussion. Seeing none, I'm about to call the question. Those in favor? The motion is carried. So that is a recommendation to council. Now becomes an actionable item. And the actionable item, of course, is item number 5 on the agenda. And item number 5 on the agenda is the approval of a bylaw which will execute on that recommendation. So I'm at item number 5 on the agenda, which is the bylaw itself. And now, do I have a wording for that bylaw?
Yeah, I have it here.
Okay, if you would, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Hunter that the move be granted leave to introduce the bylaw to authorize the mayor and the CEO to execute an agreement in purchase of sale between the Corporation of Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal and PCG Sales Limited for industrial property on behalf of the Port of Johnstown. And this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And discussion on first and second reading, hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
And the bylaw receives unanimous approval on first and second reading, and it can proceed to third reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Hunter that the bylaw to authorize the mayor and the CAO to execute the agreement purchase the sale between the Corporation Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal and PCG Sales Limited for industrial property on behalf of the Port of Johnstown be now read the third time, finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2022-01.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And again, for the sake of the public record, the agreement of purchase and sale is between the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal acting on behalf of the Port, and PCG Sales Limited is the seller of the property, formerly known as Prescott Machine and Welding Property, and also formerly known as BBL Energy Inc. And so this bylaw is now placed in motion the final 30-day period for the closing of this transaction. And the 30-day period is provided so that the seller can exercise on their responsibilities to provide a vacant possession of the property. I'm on then item number 6 on the agenda, which is the council inquiries or notices of motion. Does anyone have anything to bring up at this section of the agenda?
I do not.
I see none, and so I'm going to proceed to item number 7. Item number 7 is the mayor's report, and so I will add a few comments here. First of all, let me say that as a mayor, and I'll speak just for myself, I'm very disappointed that PCG Sales Limited, acting as BBL Energy Inc., I'm very disappointed that they were unable to get their project up and running as they had originally envisaged. We were quite happy to have them as a new business in our township. We did work with them to the best of our ability to help them realize on their goals. Unfortunately, it was not to be, and they offered the property up for sale. The property was up for sale for quite a number of months on an open market with a public listing, and the port, neither the port nor the township interfered in that public process in any way. However, as it got toward, by the way, the original listing for the property, I think, was March of 2021. As it got towards August of 2021, and the owner was not receiving what he considered to be legitimate offers for the property, the township and the port began to realize that there was an opportunity here insofar as there is no other vacant land in the vicinity of the port. And so consequently, the Port Management Committee, through the council, authorized the beginning of a negotiation process to realize upon this property. And that process has now come to an end tonight. And the only thing left to be done now then is to close the deal. Final conditions of the offer of purchase and sale have been waived. The bylaw to realize on the loan agreement will be before council, at the council meeting at the end of the month, and the deal will close within the next 30 days. So that's the mayor's report, and I'm proceeding to item number 8 on the agenda, which is the question period.
Hold for a sec, Mr. Mayor, I have, I think I have for receiving the mayor's report as presented.
Oh,
So,
sorry, go ahead.
moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that the municipal council receives the mayor's report as presented.
Thank you very much. Didn't show that on my agenda. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay, and so now I'm at question period. Are there any questions? We have no, Mr. Hendricks didn't join us, no questions from the Zoom, no one in the room. And so now I'm proceeding to the confirmatory bylaw. And the confirmatory bylaw, who has that one? I
have
see as
that.
Councillor Camp.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Dillabaugh that a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution be now passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2022-2.
2022-2.
Yeah, who got one?
Is that
Who
something?
got number one?
Well, the previous one.
I did.
Whoa, way to go.
All right, those in favor?
Yeah,
Motion is carried.
Great honor. First one.
there you go.
It's your number one for the whole year now.
Oh.
Jeez.
and
All
then
right,
some.
now the chair is looking for the motion to adjourn the meeting. I think that's Deputy Mayor Dave.
Yeah, I have that. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that municipal council now does adjourn at 5:35 p.m.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried.